Hi, Sean Kosofsky here, the Nonprofit Fixer, and I am doing my Fixer series of videos to help people learn about nonprofit leadership and fundraising and board development. And today I want to talk about the 4-day work week because over time we are hearing more and more about the changing workplace, especially since COVID. A lot of people have reoriented the way they think about work and priorities and working from home. And the incredible productivity that we ask of our workers, especially in the nonprofit sector. Even if we don't ask a ton of our workers in the nonprofit sector, we tend to get a lot of work from our workers in the nonprofit space. So thinking about how we can offer more rest, more balance instead of burnout is a really critical thing for us to do. I wrote a piece in 2023 about the 4-day work week because the last organization I ran was a national climate change organization, and we implemented the 4-day work week there. So after having gone through that research and that pilot and that implementation, I wanted to share with others what I think the values are and how to go about doing it. So really quickly today, everyone's talking about the 4-day work week for a number of reasons. There have been a lot of companies who have, around the world, implemented this. Usually smaller companies, but some bigger companies. You hear about Lamborghini, you hear about all of these German automakers and other companies that are trying this out. But usually small and mid-sized companies are the ones trying out the 4-day work week. There have been tests and experiments and huge experiments around entire countries. I think Iceland and some other countries about the 4-day work week. And study after study after study keeps showing that you can get as much productivity, if not more, and happier workers, more satisfied workers, and more retention if you move to the 4-day work week. There's a lot of ways to do this, but I think that the nonprofit sector specifically needs to have tools in our arsenal for how to compete with the private sector that costs us $0. We can lure people from the private sector and retain workers by implementing things like this that cost us nothing extra. So let's just talk through this. Lots of people are talking about the 4-day work week. Even in 2023, 2024, the UAW started asking for it in their nationwide strike. And they were not successful in getting the 4-day work week, but it changed the conversation about productivity and the place of work, the rate of work and productivity that people are expected to have nowadays. So the more people ask for it, the more likely it's going to permeate the national conversation. There is even federal legislation now asking for, in the House and in the Senate, for a 4-day work week. So how does this work? My own journey with this was that during COVID, I could see high levels of burnout among the field, not just my own workers, but across the nonprofit sector. And I really wanted to find a way to retain people. I also wanted the idea for the 4-day work week to come from management. I didn't want workers to have to ask for it. I'm not afraid of staff unionizing or employees unionizing. I'm actually pretty pro-labor and pro-union. But this didn't come from a place of fear that my workers were burned out or anything like that. I wanted to bring this benefit, this perk, to our team before it was even asked for. That's just the way I lead. So I started investigating this, I think, in 2021. And I brought it to the team, and they were very intrigued by this idea. We began practicing as if we had Fridays off. So when you tell a team member, I'll get that to you by the end of the week, what you really are saying to them is, I'll get this to you by Thursday at 5. That is like 20% sooner or earlier deadlines that we're creating for ourselves. And you can't count on an employee being there on Friday to help you with something before you shove it out the door, right? So it really does change the way you work and your expectations of team members and what they can expect of you. So we began practicing with it, and then we rolled out a pilot. But I definitely think we had stakeholders who I wanted to make sure were not irritated by this change. And we were trying to be leaders by innovating here, but someone could get irritated by this. So we rolled it out as a pilot. We announced to our stakeholders, board members, and members that we were going to try this, and then it went pretty well. So we implemented it permanently. So I'm no longer at the Climate Advocacy Lab, but I believe they still have this in place. So here are the steps and the stages. I'll show you a link down below in this video to where you can find this blog post and all the tips and all the steps in thinking through rolling out the 4-day work week. There's 4 phases that I think of. There's a 5th phase that you can add, but really the 4 phases of the 4-day work week are what I'm talking about today. The first one is assess. What I mean by assess, excuse me, is that I wanted to see if the political climate and the issue environment was really satisfactory for this. And I did some research, investigating data on what other experiments and workers were saying. I talked to HR experts, I read studies, I did all of that work in the assessment phase and decided that we were going to try one of the models was not going to be 4/10s. We were not going to work longer Monday through Thursday because there was data to suggest that lots of workers did not like that, especially parents. And so we were going to just lob off Fridays and take a 40-hour work week, which is artificial and just arbitrary, and shrink it down to 32 hours. So that was the assessment phase. And then you can read the blog post, all the different methods and models that there are. Then phase 2 is really anticipate, and that means you have to brace yourself for your stakeholders. If you're a business, then maybe it's your customers, maybe it's your investors, but in the nonprofit space, it's your board, it's your members, it's your donors, it's your funders. All of them, are they going to be irritated? Do they think they were expecting you to work harder? My experience was, by anticipating what the field was going to say, that we assumed there was going to be more pushback, and there really wasn't. More people were jealous that we were moving in this direction and that they had not yet done this. So in the blog post, you'll see I have some key questions for you to think through in your own organization before you decide to implement. And then we did a pilot plan in that anticipation phase. So we basically said we're going to try this for 90 days. First, we practiced just having Fridays off to see if we'd liked it. Then we implemented a full-on, we're doing this, we're going to try this now. Our away messages, our Slack system, all of that different stuff was really set to not be working on Fridays. No one was taking meetings on Fridays, anything. And then we announced it. So we told our funders, the board, our stakeholders, and generally it was very, very positive. So for us, the announcement phase was a very, very positive thing. And then phase 4 is to adopt. That means implement this thing. You have to really talk to your team during staff meetings and during other conversations about how they're feeling. We actually had a Slack channel where we were communicating pretty regularly on Thursdays about how is this working for everyone? Are you stressed out? Is collapsing 5 days of work into 4 days really stressful, or is it manageable? So we were ongoing talking, trying to troubleshoot as we went. And these are all just really, really thoughtful steps to do when you're implementing it. If there were to be a 5th phase, it would be amend. So they're all A's. And so, assess, anticipate, announce, adopt, and then amend. Do you need to make any changes to it? Sometimes when you move a bunch of 5-day people to 4 days, you're basically sending a signal to your part-time people also, and you might change your benefit structure. Maybe you have a generous paid time off, and now you're giving people 52 more days off. So you have to really think about these things from an HR perspective, whether you ever are going to hire part-time people again, or if you're just going to move them to full-time because at 32 hours they can get full benefits. These are all things for you to anticipate. And I wish we had thought more about that in our experiment, about the amount of time off that people would end up having at the end of the year. So the benefits of the 4-day work week, of course, are incredible. You really do get the same level of productivity out of your workers because they are so jazzed about having this perk and this benefit. You see that they work really hard. You do need to manage it though, so people just don't take advantage of it. But some workplaces might not get full productivity, and that might be okay. It might actually be okay. The other benefits are that workers consistently report feeling more valued, they feel happy, they feel rested. We decided to do our 5th day, the day off on a Friday, so people could have long weekends. People just really appreciated this move. They appreciated the opportunity to work like this. So there's just a lot of benefits to this at all. It just does take some changing of our thinking about what productivity is and this arbitrary 5-day, 40-hour work week that we've implemented. So there are some five key tools that you can use to implement this. In order to move from 5 days to 4 days, you really do need to have fewer meetings. So it's important for the boss to say to everyone, I want you to have fewer meetings. I want you to take all your 1-hour meetings and move them down to 45 minutes or even 30 minutes. All your 30-minute meetings, see if you can get them down to 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Are you joining meetings of coalitions that aren't bearing fruit? Are we doing wasteful meetings at all? Can we work asynchronously, right? So the first one is fewer meetings. If you tell people to have fewer meetings, you can get a lot more done. Most workers say if they had fewer meetings, they could get more done. So this does take a leadership top-down sort of it's okay to have fewer meetings messaging. The other one is asynchronous work, which I mentioned. Can your teams be doing things that used to be done in a meeting in Slack, in Google, in other collaboration software opportunities? But getting everyone together, it really delays a lot of work if you have to get everyone together live for a meeting. So in some ways, work slows down when you have to get everyone live for a meeting. But if you work asynchronously, things might be able to speed up. You might be able to get more productivity. I tell my team to move all their non-essential meetings to Friday, the day that they have off. So doctor's visits, vet visits, all that stuff is now moved to the day that they have off. That's the only way they're going to be able to get all their work done. Keep talking, keep communicating. That's another tool. Make sure everyone's kind of sharing where their struggles are or whether they're really enjoying it. And then work blocking. I'm a huge fan of no meeting Mondays, which means on Mondays I take no meetings. I plow through so much work in the week when I have a full day, usually the first day of the week, where there's no meetings. So for me, having team members work block where they get lots of work done in little blocks and it's clearly on their calendar, but specifically a whole block on Monday where there's no meetings and you're getting work done, for me was essential to making this work. So read the blog post, let me know what you think. I'm a huge fan of the 4-day work week. I think it's the future, and I would love to know if you are using it. So thank you so much. Take care.